Hi everyone, this is Cassandra Vose Demon.
And I'm Denny Savela.
And this is the When Will the Curtain Go Up podcast, creative artists emerging in an ever-changing world.
How will live performance artists emerge after the current pandemic? Even after a treatment, will people feel safe?
We will have honest conversations with members of the artistic community from all over the world as they tackle these questions. Artists will share what they are currently working on and discuss challenges and successes as they navigate this new reality. Hello, everyone. We would like to welcome you to our brand new podcast called When Will the Curtain Go Up? Creative Artists Emerging in an Ever-Changing World. My name is Cassandra Vose Demon. I own A Place to Shine Music. I'm also a producer, director, screenwriter, musician, songwriter. I could go on and on and on. And my co-host is Mr. Denny Savela. Denny, you want to introduce yourself?
I'm also known as Denny Diamond, but please forget I said that now.
It's catchy. It's catchy.
Yeah. I too am a entertainer. I also bake cookies. Got some brownies in the oven, so hurry.
So we what we have decided to do is create this podcast to give all of our artistic community, members of our artistic community organizations, an opportunity to talk about what they are doing, how they are doing through the current pandemic. What's happening with their organizations, what's happening with their personal artistry, has it been affected? Are there ways forward? And are there ways that people can help? And so we're so excited today to be joined by the co-executive directors of the Dole, People Plus the Arts in Crystal Lake, near and dear to my heart because I was an artist in the building many years ago when the building started. And the work that they have done to try to build that organization into, really the future, I think, is amazing. But this pandemic has had a huge effect on them. And so I'm going to give you a quick bio about Janet and Nancy. And this is straight from Nancy, which I love this. So in everything we do as photographers, we believe everyone should be heard and understood. It's about blending visions, your ideas with our artful skills. Your expectations will be exceeded along this creative journey. They are both professional photographers. They are both teachers who inspire, and they are trailblazing art event producers. They have produced the Fourth Fridays art event, which started in Harvard, which is amazing. It's an amazing event, and is now being held at the Dole. I always thought when I was there that I couldn't understand why they couldn't do something like you were doing, Nancy, up in Harvard at the Dole. So it's amazing and exciting to see that happening. So we would like to welcome Nancy Merkling and Janet Kay from the Dole. Maybe you guys could give us just a little bit of background information, a little more than what I just gave you about what you're doing and what your experiences are. So a little self-bio. So let's start with Nancy.
I was going to ask you to start with Janet. So just kidding. I have been a photographer and an artist my entire life. That's blended right in with math. And so the idea of blending art and business has always been something that I feel has been part of my path. When we were offered the opportunity to consider the role, when the executive position came open at the Dole, it felt to Janet and I, after already working together as colleagues for almost a decade and then blending our businesses a few years back, it felt to us like it was a really good next step platform for us to be able to not just drive our own art and businesses forward, but also to be able to plug into the community and the arts in the community. So taking what we had already done together and kind of seasoned like a good chili, and then being able to say, hey, how can we help other people this way? That really made it happen. I just posted a picture of Janet and I that had been taken last July when we had first, taken the job, and it said, look at those innocent faces who have no clue that the corona, because we were just, like the future is ours and look at what to do. And, we got our 2020 budget together and he said this should fly unless there's a pandemic. No one said that. We just very hopeful. So we're still hopeful because we know the pandemic will pass. And then our goals as are common with everybody else, is what do we do in the meantime? How do we survive to get there?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. How about you, Janet?
Well, Nancy spoke into it a little bit with the photography. I too have done photography most of my life. I would say I always like to tell people about my high school photography classes with my dear friend Elaine. And I think that that's kind of where it all started for me. And however, my career path was going to college to Marquette and studying to be a teacher. So I certainly enjoyed that part of my career. I taught for 8 years elementary education, but my heart was pulled towards the arts. And so I began on that path. And then along that way, I met Nancy. And it's been really exciting and challenging. And it's great to do it with somebody and be in it together. It's a great support. And so, again, embarking on another career journey together. And it was a lot of fun to get excited about what we could do beyond what we already had done. And so the Dole was an opportunity where we felt we could serve the community at a greater capacity. And Nancy and I were just really excited about that. And we know that we're strong together and figured, like you said, innocent faces in the picture, but we just knew, well, if we've got each other by our side, we can do this, right? We'll step into it and take on the challenge. And yeah, fast forward a year later, and we have a global pandemic on our hands. So that's made this very interesting. I think not just for Nancy and I, but for everybody. Denny has disappeared. Ladies and gentlemen, where's Denny Diamond?
It's like a magic trick. I'm not really sure what happened there.
Can actually move that fast. So
I don't even know what that was.
he was Sandra Bullock in the bus.
That's it.
You know what, Denny, did you go check on your brownies?
Yes.
Are you going to be delivering them later today is what I want to know.
My phone's working. It's not supposed to be working, and it's working. It's just...
He's having all kinds of technical difficulties
I
this
am.
morning.
It's been awful all morning. Email's down, and now my phone's going off.
Oh, Lord. We got to work on that. Okay, so I wanted to tell you, ladies, that I was very excited to see two powerful women taking over that position there, and also who are also artists, because I think it's important to understand artists if you're going to run an arts organization.
Mm-hmm.
So can you maybe, Janet, elaborate a little bit on what's happening at the Dole since the pandemic hit?
So as I had alluded to in my answer is, we are a nonprofit organization serving the community through arts, history, education. We are excited that we have brick and mortar, but how we serve is people come through our doors for so many different types of experiences and opportunities. And depending on the size of that, which can get quite large, especially if you're talking the Fourth Friday art event, to concerts in the listening room, even smaller events, they're not, I think the biggest thing that kind of hit Nancy and I was when you are dealing with something like COVID and a pandemic and everything has to shut down, everything has to be done at a much, much smaller scale, that presents a challenge for us. It does in revenue, but beyond that, our ability to serve people at the capacity we want to has completely halted. So that's been really frustrating because then you're left with the challenge, how do we continue to fulfill our mission, do what we want to do to help our community through arts, history, and education, but stay within CDC guidelines, put the safety and health of our patrons #1 priority. So I feel like that was the biggest thing we've hit. Of course, I'll let Nancy maybe take another half of this question, maybe to expand on it, because I could get into some of the financial things. But I just feel like Nancy and I both sort of went, oh my gosh, we can't have anybody through our doors. And that's how we connect, that's how we serve, and that's how we help. And it's been really frustrating, really frustrating.
Well, with
Nancy,
the announcement of the phases, as soon as they said no crowds, we all of our jaws dropped at the same time, I'm sure.
Well, exactly. Absolutely.
I'm sorry.
When you run an art event that touts 600 to 1,000 people through the door, that's cool. all the way up until a pandemic. And
Mhm.
all of a sudden, it's something that works against you.
Right.
So we actually took that verbiage off the website because we felt like it sounded, even though we've paused everything, we felt like it sounded a little bit scary. We can just put you in a really big room with lots of people breathing on you. That doesn't feel.
Oh no, we'll put plastic in between each chair. Yeah.
Nancy, can you speak a little bit to the financial, what is the revenue stream for the Dole? How does the Dole stay afloat? How did they stay afloat before? What's the situation now?
Well, I'll tell you, there's been a lot of different plans over the years and how to generate something that serves the mission. Typically, the arts is something that requires funding because it in and of itself is not self-sufficient. So with us trying to relaunch and work into the educational programs through the culinary, the listening room, the arts, as well as expanding that. We have a great plan for post-pandemic, which is awesome. And it was actually on the way and got a little bit paused, let's not say derailed, until post-vaccine or when we are able to gather again. But the bottom line is that to fund our mission, we bring large hordes of people through the door, whether it be through our own art events or through weddings or through other people renting for art events. And when you can no longer do that, that's a big goose egg. How much money are we bringing through the door in 2020 for events? And the answer is zero past the middle of March. And then now we've got this lovely thing called the 2021 budget. And so, one of the first questions is, gosh, when do we start planning on bringing in revenue through events? And the answer is a big fat, I don't know, because I don't have that crystal ball. So our large revenue stream in that direction, as well as our studios being rented, obviously artists in this day and age, not able to work one-on-one with people. We've had a few people that have had to leave. We worked some deferral programs in on the rents, et cetera. But all in all, I think we're kind of grateful right now to be a nonprofit because unlike a restaurant whose only way to generate revenue is to make and sell food and beverage, we also have grants and donations. And so we've become professional beggars because we believe in the plan that we have post-pandemic. And post-pandemic is big. What we have planned, what we had planned, what we were working into, what was already working, where we were already going, had to stop. But it doesn't have to completely go away. And no offense to any pizza places anywhere, because it's one of my favorite foods ever. In fact, it got me through college, both for dinner and breakfast the next day. But if we were just a pizza restaurant in a strip mall, it would be difficult to pitch a value and why we should be saved straight through by donations for the post-pandemic view. Again, I have confidence we're going to get through the pandemic. I just don't know when, because I have no way to predict that. So when we get to the other side, are we worth saving? And the answer is, good heavens, like, a bazillion times over. And my granddaughter tells me that's not a real number. So she's old enough to know that now. A bazillion is not a real number, but I use it. Come on. So that financial part, that piece that we've been hit, we were hit hard. And as an organization, we immediately determined our burn rate. We cut everything that we could. We laid off staff. We laid off staff again, or furloughed another chunk of staff. And the current staff that is at such bare bones is only working at 60% pay. So we are down to nothing. We are down to, there's nothing else we can cut. The ice machine is cut off. The trash is not picked up. We are down to bare bones. And so we've done our part, and we're trying still to determine how we look alive during the pandemic, and whether that be to run socially distanced events or not, whether that be to, let people indoors or not. Right now in phase 4, we have an or not for letting people in because there's zero revenue that walks through our front door. So we don't look irresponsible by not having just a free-for-all, come walk through the mansion. We actually look responsible. We don't want germs transmitted and people walking through the door. So we've had to make some decisions that I know from the outside might make it look like are they doing anything or not? And the answer is every darn day we sure are. Every day we are. In fact, the infamous Patty Bell, giving you a shout out here. Patty Bell is an information guru, and she does the data collection for me every day from websites. She does the update. She follows other states and cities that have already opened socially distanced events and lets me know what's happening to the numbers and how, whether or not those things are traced back. So there's things that we're doing every day that we might still look quiet, not. We're just trying to make the best possible decision as we move forward. So like everyone else, we're not making money, you know, no one's making money. So how do you survive till the other side?
Yeah, I think that's something that I think if we could really shine a light on the fact that we're all like volcanoes that are ready to erupt, you know, it's like there's a lot of activity going on inside. It's a lot of stuff happening, you know, but it's all contained inside the volcano. We can't get it out. I mean, it's a tough thing. I mean, we both relate. I know we were producing some events that were going to go up at the venue, you know? Yeah. And so those are all things Denny and I are going to talk about in our first show that we do on Thursday, about how it's impacted him and I. But Janet, how have the artists in the building, you know, I'm curious what has been the protocol as far as, like, are they allowed to have people in? You know, what are they allowed to be in their studios? I'm kind of curious about that.
Can I ask a question before you go, Janet?
Yeah, sure.
Can you explain to everybody who is in the building? I know you produce shows, but what else happens in the building on a daily basis?
In the current state we're in with COVID?
Well, usually. What used to happen? How about that?
Oh, what used to happen?
Yeah.
Well, we would have the building buzzing about with 8 to 9 staff members, lots of interaction. Doors are open 9 to 5. We have a third space where we're just really trying to, again, we were on to something, but we've halted, trying to let people know our doors are open. Come on in. Walk through the mansion, come into the third space, which is the Sage Gallery, bring in a coffee, you know, a muffin, hook up to our Wi-Fi, set up a meeting. So you would see a few people that would come in and out. You would see us meeting with people. We would have music playing, you know, a lot of buzzing about. We were doing once a month through Nancy Merkling Productions. We were doing the Fourth Friday art event, and then directly following that on that evening was something that Nancy and Patty Bell put together, Late Night at the Dole, and it was to offer something else going on right after Fourth Fridays, some more cocktails, great music, and we felt that it would be a great way to have something that was a staple happening and people could count on that Fourth Friday you knew there was going to be, you know, great music in the listening room. So those were two things that were happening. We had culinary programs brewing. We were working close with both a sponsor and someone who had given us a grant. Artists, what artists look like then, in and out, using the space, both the third space, using their own spaces, not having any limits. You know, so Joe Diamond would have maybe a show of 12 to 14 people up in his studio. Not a problem. And I've been up in there and it's fine for 12 to 14 people when you're not in a pandemic. Right. But of course now, someone like Joe, who does like to fill his studio and don't do those smaller shows, you know, he's an example of somebody who's been limited. Outside of that, there'd be, you know, spontaneous tours that might happen in the mansion. They could be self-tours. Maybe it was somebody I knew and I might grab them and walk through. So there was a lot of this, come through the building, hey, how you doing? People popping in, the phones ringing, great energy, music playing. And it's just all of a sudden, as so many places, it's just quiet. Mm-hmm. And it's now we're hunkered down. So if that was that a good enough answer to that, Denny? Yeah. Okay.
You had people who painted and.
Oh, well, so let me get into the artists. So yeah, so we have, as far as the artists, so I can answer that question. Obviously they're in and out all the time. Some have had to leave now because of COVID. And some of that has been for financial reasons, health reasons. Other than that, those that are there, we still have people that do music, teach music, paint. We have people that are artisans that sell, what it is that, what they're making. And how would we describe Danuta? She's a great example.
She's got functional, she's amazing with her artwork, but she does pottery, but it's functional pottery.
Nice.
Makes these awesome little, like, just beautiful things. And so I actually bought these because my granddaughters and I like to have ice cream together, but you have to have a small bowl for ice cream or you'll eat too much, especially when you're grandma and you really shouldn't be doing it. So
yeah.
What's the thing is too much ice cream? What?
Life artistic. I could have bought something at Target that was plastic and bright, but I didn't. I bought 3 special ice cream bowls. And if I don't break them, we'll still be able to use them. There we go.
Exactly. So to give an example too, so someone like Danuta, we also have someone who does massage therapy. We have someone who does Tai Chi. We definitely have the gamut, of different types of businesses in there. So with COVID, initially, they were only resident artists themselves were allowed into the building just to get into their studio, do whatever they needed to do, and then leave. Once we went into phase 3, they were allowed to start having, up to a certain amount of people that could come into their studio. So massage therapy could take place. They could teach. And of course, they had to employ into what they were doing the CDC guidelines, wearing masks, being socially distant, and things like that. But we did leave that to their responsibility because it's their business that they're running and what it is that they're doing and following those guidelines. Nothing's really changed since then. Our building is still closed, but we're open by appointment only. And as Nancy had said, we just don't want it a free-for-all. It can't be that right now because we also would need more monitoring at the entrances where we'd be having to check temperatures, make sure, everybody's masked. We want to monitor how they were moving about the building, and we're just not able to do that right now.
Right.
But people can come through. So Nancy and I have meetings, and we will sometimes have meetings with, 2, 3, or 4 people. And then we socially distance within the Sage Gallery and have an appropriate meeting where everybody feels safe. So we have begun to do some face-to-face. Does that kind of answer then?
Yeah, what I wanted to get out, what I wanted everybody to realize was that it's not just this space that's creating, that you have things on 4th Friday, but you're actually housing individuals who are trying to make a living as well.
Oh, yes.
So there's another impact there that I wanted to make sure everybody realized was there.
Absolutely, and it's an exciting place when everybody can be up and about and moving around, and it is pretty busy. So again, we're almost at capacity, but we did go down a little bit because of COVID. So yes, we serve a lot of different artists that way. Right.
Yeah. So you have there's another responsibility besides just keeping the doors open, because the Dole is a great place and a staple. There's a lot of other people depending on you, besides a whole community of people wanting to be entertained and have something to do. So
absolutely.
Yeah. I tried to get back to your web page again. Your front page only shows it once, I guess. But I was looking at the money that it takes to keep you guys open. I'm shocked.
What was the impact? Because I did see that you had to cancel Lakeside Festival, which was obviously, that was one of the biggest events there. I played at it. Janet, I think did you guys play at it too at one point? I found an old picture that I posted recently that I was like, oh my God, Lakeside Festival. But Nancy, what is the financial impact of the fact that the festival did not happen? What kind of money needs to be raised in order to replace that lack of funding? If you could talk a little bit about that, that would be great.
Or I think there's a little misconception in some of our public that Lakeside Festival is run by the city. And even though we work closely with the city, with the fireworks and obviously permitting, the Dole owns Lakeside Festival. It's been going on for 42 years, and it is currently our largest annual fundraiser. So to say that we lean heavily on the festival for our largest chunk of cash coming into the bottom line is true. It's true. It's not like a suggestion. It's not a sometimes. It is a take it or leave it. And you know, funny because up until this point we've always gone, we should really we've got a lot of other stuff that comes in around it, but it's something that happens outdoors, and we've been very blessed in the years, but no one ever said, we'll do fine unless there's a thunderstorm or a pandemic that wipes us out. And we're down to no one saw it coming. And it was hard for me to watch sunshine for 4 days over festival this year, because I'm going, we didn't have any rain at all. It would have been a perfect year, but and nice and hot, so we'd sell a little beer. Bottom line is we net close to $250,000 in our festival. And so to say that we didn't make that is again accurate. So we've taken our entire organization down to bare bones. We're all emptying our own trash and bringing it. We've got refrigerators cut, but festival going away, not having the festival was a huge hit. So we put together a disaster advisory committee immediately, brought all our financial people in, figured out our burn rate, figured out what we needed to do. And so our current ask is on that festival replacement, as well as another $250,000 that'll get us through 2021's big question mark of no events, nothing else coming in through the door except for us, becoming professional beggars and increasing the grants and writing that happens. So the festival, the Lakeside Festival, is our every year, holy cow, this is a big deal. And for it to not happen this year means I get to once again say, holy cow, this is a big deal. And we are really praying that we don't have to say that again in 2021. So my plea is that someone fix COVID, please, now.
I had something on the tip of my tongue, and now I forgot what I was going to say.
So you're saying $500,000?
$500,000 they need. And the other thing too is there's got to be continued building costs. I mean, that's the thing that people don't realize too. That's a big building. Air conditioning, when it's hot, if the artists are in the building, then they're probably running air conditioners also. So what kind of, so it's not just the building, it's not just the arts, it's not just that, but it's the cost of just keeping the doors open and the bills paid. And I think that's a lot of what people don't understand about some of these venues that, are going dark, because they still have to pay the electricity. They still have to pay the water bill. They still have to make sure they pay their insurance. There's all these other expenses that are coming along with it that when you don't have any revenue, there's no way.
We still have a leak in the basement under the Lincoln Room. That doesn't pause because of the pandemic. So analyzing the building, it's a great building to be in. And I like to say we couldn't do this in a strip mall. Yet when you're working with historic buildings and preserving, which we want to do, it's an awesome thing to do. And it does, there's a lot more maintenance and a lot more repair than what you would expect.
I'm seeing too. Oh, sorry, Denny.
I was just saying, it's just a great old building.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So you have a fundraising campaign that you're doing. Janet, could you talk a little bit more about that and a little bit more about how people can help you?
Sure. Well, let me just clear up any confusion. When we started 2020, we were not in a pandemic, and we kicked off our 20 for 2020 campaign. And something that we wanted to run all year, play on the numbers, and something that Nancy and I believe in is, she says it in a fun way, a lot of littles makes a lot. And so we wanted to create a campaign, especially with it kind of being the kickoff of our first year there, a campaign that could pull in anybody, because $20 is feasible for most people, and make sure that everybody understands that whether it's 20, if it's 200, if it's 2,000, what you're doing for our organization matters. And you then are the reason that we can survive and fulfill our mission. And so we just really felt strongly about creating a fun campaign that could be relatable to a teenager. We've had students from creative arts that came over once and collected a few of their dollars and things, and it totaled like $10. And the joy on their faces knowing that they were making a difference relative to what they knew they could do. So that's our 20 for 2020 campaign. We have a goal of 50 grand. We are at about 16,000. So we're almost a little under well, 50 is a shooting high, but for what we put in the budget, we're almost halfway there. So, but we still want to aim high. Now we come to pandemic, and we realize that a 20 for 2020 campaign isn't going to save us. So that's when a lot of thought went into what do we need to do now and in a short amount of time to have the biggest impact. And that's where we realized we just as I said, we need big money now. And so we really needed to get to a point where we were having those heartfelt conversations with people in the community, donors, and saying, we're in quite a predicament, as many people are, and we need your help. And we need your help in a very sincere, serious way, because we were onto something really good, and we just want to get back there. Please see us through that. So then now I would like Nancy to speak into this, because really what came was, what do we call this? Our board president, Patty Lutz, it was kind of fun. We were in the middle of a board meeting, and she's like, it's kind of like Save the Dole 2.0. Because, you know, the Dole was saved in 2002. And so we all kind of sat and let that one resonate. And so then Nancy, working closely in marketing with Patty Bell, they came up with this comparison plan. So I'm going to let her speak into that, because it's actually really cool, because we felt like it would get across to the community a really clear message on why we're where we are now and what it means to be raising this money. So I'm going to let Nancy talk about that.
I think in the beginning, that we always know that when you're asking for money for a nonprofit, that you have to have a value, you have to have a why. And so again, nothing against pizza places and strip malls, but we have a much bigger value. There's a much bigger reason. And I think in general about the Dole just going away, and how that's going to impact the artist community in McHenry County. And that's a big deal. Not just the people renting from us, not even just the people that attend the art events, but those who the arts are important to. And that's pretty much everything, because I think we've kind of noticed during COVID that there's a few things that have naturally risen to the surface, like cream in milk. One of them is relationships really are important. The other one is that the arts, no one had to ask people in Italy to go out on their balcony and play music. No one had to do that. And so the arts coming to the surface for healing, the arts continuing to be created, because that's how artists heal, and it's how we share and help others. An art center going away would be devastating. So back in 2002, their goal was to raise $1 million, and they did it in 42 days. And that's amazing, because we're only, I don't usually say only in $500,000 in the same sentence, but for the Dole I can. So we're only asking for $500,000 between now and the end of the year. So we're at half the amount, and it's lasting us a lot longer. Back then, their the reason that they were doing it, their short-term goal was no condos. That was it. They didn't know what they were going to do with it. And now our short-term goal is just get us through to the other side, because we've made these incredible plans. Like, it's not just no condos. We have a much bigger thing to save, not just a building. Their long-term plan was, I don't know. And that's okay. They did a brilliant job in saving it, because 18 years later, we can go, thank you for doing that. But they didn't know. The Art Center concept came about a little bit later. Our long-term plan is a very long list. In fact, if you guys want that PDF, I'd be happy to send it to you post here, just because it's kind of a fun graphic of comparison. So there's this long list of what we're currently saving. And then there's another long list of what we're currently working on that was going to be launched until, you know, COVID. So that's my new favorite phrase, because everything blame on that at this point. So how do we do that comparative value? In fact, we have a couple of people saying, so we thought we saved the Dole once. It's like, yeah, that was before a pandemic and 18 years ago. And we were already on a trajectory. We were already sustaining. We already had our plan going. But then, COVID. So we're in the position of, you're not just saving because of any type of, we didn't get our job done. We got our job done, but then we had a pandemic set in. But what are you saving isn't lack of condos. It's this huge long list of all these things that we offer and help with the community. In fact, I keep wanting to tell you about this new educational program, but I can't because it's not completely solid, but it has to do with like real life skills and Gen Zers and stuff. Doesn't that sound cool?
Yes,
Okay.
you were very vague about it in your interview, Pete. Paper.
Correct. It's, until it's signed and done. We've already got the program being developed. It's just how it's going to be launched and what we do. But we're thrilled. We are thrilled. In fact, we've been polling other Gen Zers, including my kids and other kids in that category, and kind of like because that's our future, right? It's not people with, walkers coming through our door. We need to be able to engage the Gen Zers and the millennials because they are our future people for this. So how are we going to serve them, and what are we going to do that encourages them to come through the door? In fact, that was the purpose of us creating Fourth Fridays back in 2011 was, let's make art events fun and still credible. Like, why do they have to be credible and boring or fun and non-credible? Why can't we take the fun part and the credible part and put those together and get rid of the boring and the non-credible? And so imagine that. And the Gen Zers were volunteering and attending, and the millennials are going, this is the best thing ever. And even people my age were excited. So that idea of how do we continue to serve the needs, not just through the arts, but through real life as well, is something that we've evolved in the educational part. But, we can't do it unless we're saved. So
I think it would be great for you to send us that list. And we'd be happy to, if you're okay with us putting it on our site and just kind of sharing that, or even putting a JPEG version, we could throw it up on our page.
Perfect.
Because I think one of the things that Denny and I talked a lot about in having conversations about doing this video / podcast, this was partly one of our ways forward. One of our ways forward was to try to give a voice to this, but also there's so many arts organizations that are in your position, and we wanted to bring them all together in one place so that we could really, really, really show the community the impact, one that it's having, but also what would be the impact if it was gone? What would be the impact if all of these things just went away? Because so many of us in this position are looking at, okay, I got to figure out another plan for my career if this doesn't fly. And that's one thing that's been going through my head, Denny's head. I'm sure you have had the same, thoughts. It's like, well, if it does go away, what do we do now? We go back to, what we were doing before. But it's heartbreaking when you have worked so hard and to start building something, and I relate 100%, and then have it just cut off. And one of the things that a friend of mine that I was talking to said in this conference that I was just in this past weekend, she said, wow, you're an artist. You were the first to be shut down and the last to open. Down the road, one of the things that we're talking about doing is creating some kind of a foundation or fund, that all the people that we bring in McHenry County, especially, that we will be able to have sort of a central location where people can donate, and then we can split it up too, to continue. So even once you're saved, that doesn't mean that the revenue stream, once you're back open, all of a sudden kicks up to 90 or 100%. That's going to be a slow roll, for most organizations. So it's going to take time to do that. So they can go to www.thedole.org to find out more information and also donate. Is there any place else that they can find you? Janet, you want to go into that?
Well, they can find us on Facebook, The Dole. They can find us on Instagram. We have a Dole page on Instagram. We have our listening room on Instagram. And of course, all that gets tweeted as well. If people are into Twitter, we have a Twitter account. So these are places that they could go. And I think Facebook is something that in Instagram we utilize a lot to get messages out there and keep people informed on what's going on, try to inspire them, give them updates. So website and social media are your best places to reach us and know what's going on.
What about you?
Go
What
ahead,
about
Denny,
your
sorry.
professional- How about a professional plug there?
For what?
For a professional plug, your photography and your music and everything. You wanna throw a
Oh,
website out there?
Yeah, I know. I've slid by that. I will say though, speaking into being a professional photographer, it was shocking when all my weddings, 90% of them got canceled. Again, when you shoot events and weddings, you're working in environments where there's a lot of people in small spaces, and that's not popular right now. Nobody wants to do that. So I have a couple clients that modified and went very small. Most of them pushed out to next year. So God willing, next year, I will be back to normal with just the part of the photography I do, which is weddings. But there's still no guarantee for that.
Right.
I have some weddings at the tail end of this year. I'm not concerned working with clients when I'm shooting. I have my mask on. They obviously cannot have masks on. Nobody wants photographs with masks on, but I just protect myself as a barrier for them so they feel comfortable working with me. And I've been able to do smaller things. I've tried to be able to plug in here and there those smaller jobs, headshots, audition shots, things like that.
Mhm.
But it's been really tough. So, and I, a professional plug, hire me for your wedding. Well,
There you
nobody's
go.
really having weddings right now. So but it's really hard. And even on the teaching sense, I mean, Nancy does most of the teaching. I work with the students that want to go higher level and get into speed light and lighting and all that. And we work one-on-one, but there's still people that don't want to even do one-on-one in face. So then it decreases the opportunities for teaching, certainly for the group travel workshops that Nancy does. These things are scary for some people. Others are willing to do it as long as they're masked, socially distanced and whatnot. So we're feeling it as artists. It's been really tough. Unfortunately, I don't sing quite as much as I used to. Taking on the responsibility of running a photography business and being a co-executive director with Nancy didn't leave a whole lot of room for my Friday and Saturday shows. But Pete and I are going to be doing some things over at the Public House in Woodstock just to kind of, Catherine and Brian asked us to, help people feel good about gathering on their patio. So we'll plug in a few of those.
Good. Good.
Hope you're still
And then
doing
I
the
get to
warm
sing,
ups.
sometimes I get to sing with Cassandra. So that's obviously been a really great experience for me.
Yeah, I know I was going to come out one of those nights and you end up cancel. I was like, maybe I'll get up and, bother you. Nancy, how about you as far as your own professional, personal plug?
So I think that one of the things that we are all experiencing day to day is how do we personally and professionally not add to the transmission rate of the COVID virus. So, when you go to the grocery store, you probably increase the chances of that, but that's essential, right? And so we, with the workshops, have done the same. We just talked about if you're comfortable, come in for a one-on-one. If you're not, it's fine. The downtown street photography workshops, we've done a couple, and I've moved this last one because the numbers are going back up. And I'm not going to say it doesn't matter. So there's a lot of we had to look at our policy of when you pay for a workshop, there is no refund because, COVID. So we can transfer it though. I will take and transfer that money to a one-on-one, to another workshop, to 2021. It doesn't matter. And I think that's where as business owners, especially as gig workers, that we need to be a little bit flexible. But what people don't understand when you say I'm not refunding this is that I'm still not making any money in the next workshop. So if everybody's already paid, I've already been paid for 2 days that have been carved out. When it comes to Fourth Fridays, we've been, one of the things I said within the first few weeks, we're going to have a very long and wide window in which to respond to what's going on. COVID's not going to go away. I wish it would have in a month or two. And this is going to be an opportunity that we might not want to just knee jerk and put up an online virtual art gallery show. So we've been quiet with Fourth Fridays because we've been, watching what other people do to see what online virtual galleries are working and not. We've also been testing softwares because, when you go for free, you get free quality. So there's a paid software that we'll use that is a high-end online software for virtual galleries. And we've had the opportunity, as much as I love Fourth Fridays and everything that we do for others, I'm kind of on a little vacation from running an art event, and my Fourth Friday of the month is suddenly free, which is great. So I've taken all of that time and energy to put into how do we analyze what we did with the event in the past that we might not have had time to analyze because we were running the event, and how do we leave some stuff behind and bring some stuff forward. And I think one of the things that we've thought about in putting the virtual gallery together is that we'll maintain that. So we'll maintain that virtual gallery once we go back to being able to have an opening and physically hanging artwork as well. And there's also a couple of other bells and whistles that we've added in that will make it high end. Fourth Fridays has always kind of been that step up. How do you create this phenomena of an art event and run it 72 times and it keeps getting more successful? How do you do that? Well, that's an attention to detail. So this pause, this quiet is not because we're, binge watching Netflix and waking up with a Cheeto stuck to the side of our face. Actually are doing a lot of research, which exhausts us and exhilarates me all at the same time. I like being able to serve people at a higher level that exceeds expectations, and I think that's where we're going with that as well. So look in the next month or two to have that come out. I think we're close, and we feel like the wait is worth it when you don't say, that wasn't quite what I was looking for, or it's what everybody else is doing too, right?
So everybody can keep checking the Dole.com, right?
.org.
.org?
The Dole.org.
There you go. And you'll keep them up to date on that. I wish I could get that front screen up again. It's just a quick splash that doesn't come back. But I think that's people need to get on there and read that.
And it's so simple, you guys. And if you want to get a hold of Jan and I, it's nancymerkling.com for anything that goes through the photography company. Okay. But that 20 for 2020 campaign, I challenge people to, get in neighborhood competitions. Come on, get your block to compete with the next block. Send us a video. We'll put you online and make you famous for $20 bills for us. And if 40,000 people in Crystal Lake all gave us $20, we'd be there. Right. So we do that. A lot of littles equals a lot. It is affordable for anyone who goes through an ATM. Those 20s, I wash them in my jeans half the time. It's like I lose a 20, I gain a 20. So let's see how many 20s we can get and get the Dole sustained until we can open our doors again and serve.
Yeah. If people give up their lattes for a week, they'll probably have the extra money to put towards it. I think that's the thing that people don't realize is that it doesn't take a lot. It just takes a lot of people giving a little. And then you are able to survive, which is an amazing thing.
Right. And I want to acknowledge that, in the midst of this, there's a lot of people that have need. And I feel like with that approach to something little, making a big difference, and it does, that I've been able to not only support the organization I work for with a small donation, but I've been able to do that for other organizations and COVID relief things. So I feel like I'm making a difference at a smaller level because I can't just maybe give all of it to one, but I can spread it out in these smaller amounts. It's appreciated and it does make a difference. And we want to make sure that people know, we realize there's a lot of people that have their hand out right now. And we need to be there for a lot of people in different, I know, here's mine. And we get that. And one of our obstacles, and we completely understood it, one of our obstacles was a lot of the initial grants and things were for COVID relief for frontline workers, organizations that support people on the front line. We are not a frontline organization in that sense, but as we said, nobody, like Nancy was saying, nobody asked people in Italy to get out and sing. The arts is a coping mechanism, and it becomes a very essential coping mechanism in the face of crisis. So in that sense, we have sort of a front line in that arena. And, you know, so we get it. A lot of hands out there, but that little bit, and you can kind of spread it out to a few different places, and we can all support each other.
I like that.
I just want to mention that we do accept checks with commas in them.
I was going to address that a little bit too, because I know that with donations online, you can pay a fee. There's a credit card fee associated with that. So would you prefer people send you checks if that's something, or does it matter to you?
It doesn't. Yeah, we can accept credit card. We not concerned with the fee. And then, I mean, it's tough to remember, but you would see it on the website. 401 Country Club Road is where you would mail a check if you wanted to. And if anybody, honestly, Nancy and I, like we said, our doors are not unlocked, but we are available by appointment. Nancy and I, being responsible with our own position that we share as executive directors, as well as our staff, are still allowing work from home because that's acceptable. And those of us that are still on are being productive in our ability to do that. But Nancy and I are more than willing to meet with anybody. So anybody hearing this going, hey, you know what? I'd love to sit with Nancy and Janet, ask them some questions. Maybe there's somebody out there who wants to collaborate, has a great idea, so we can be in this together. Nancy and I are more than willing to, by appointment, absolutely meet, come indoors. The Sage Gallery is a large space. We can be socially distanced. We can wear masks. So we are open to that as well, besides just an email, or writing a check, because, sometimes I like to meet people before I even get the check, because there's always a beautiful person behind that donation, right?
So once people see, as we start posting things, what we're encouraging our listeners to do is, if you see a post for the Dole and this campaign that they have and the programming that they want to build, share it. Share it on Facebook. Go on there, like their page, follow their Instagram, get on their Twitter. Make sure that you stay in the loop with what they're doing. They have mailing lists. Sign up for them. Make sure that you understand what's happening so that you can be part of their solution as they go forward. So to kind of wrap up, which this has been awesome, you guys. I can't even tell you how awesome this is. I'm so excited about continuing, and we'll have you back, just as we go, to see how you're doing. But what at this point, so that we leave things a little bit in a happy place, what brings you hope right now? Let's start with Nancy.
Why do you start the hard questions with me? I don't believe this is the end of the world, and I believe that God's got a plan in everything that happens. And so my hope is in the fact that there will be good that will come out of this in the end. The sadness is that typically when we go through changes this large in humanity, that there's a lot of devastation as well. And so Janet and I have both had family members affected by COVID. And so we've got that personal part of it going on as well. But in general, I feel like across the world that if people lean in and do what we're supposed to do, and that's take care of one another and actually figure out that love does come first, that we're going to be okay on the other side. And that's the part that gives me hope. If we just keep holding on to the fact that together is better.
That was beautiful. Thank you, Nancy. Janet, what about you?
My hope comes in the way I've seen people come together. I've even seen it. It's actually been fun for Nancy and I to be in board meetings. We're doing working board meetings. So they're a little bit more roll your sleeves up. We gather together, we're brainstorming, we're having great dialogue. So it's and we're all together. It's the remaining staff, the board, and we're all in there with a stake in this together. And so it's been kind of none of us like what's brought us at these working board meetings where we're rolling our sleeves up. We know it's hard, but that has just brought me a lot of hope, because I'm really enjoying collaborating at a deeper level with all of us in the same room, socially distanced, but it's a really cool experience. We've gotten to know each other better. We're hearing each other, and so that intense coming together, I can only imagine, is happening everywhere. And that's what gives me hope, because when everybody says, okay, we're all in this, great things are going to happen from that. So I've really enjoyed that, despite the hardship it's been on the board and the staff. We're all feeling the pain of COVID, and it weighs heavy on our hearts. Despite that, that coming together of people that probably happens in other organizations and businesses. It's happening among all different types of artists, musicians, across the board. That's really powerful for me.
Denny, do you have anything else you want to ask before we start to wrap up here?
Oh, I think this is great. I like old buildings. I went to St. Ignatius, which is a 200-year-old school. So when I see the Dole, I'm like, wow, I just love old buildings like that. It needs to be saved. It shouldn't be closed. So,
Denny, have you been inside the mansion?
oh yeah,
Okay.
I've seen Cassandra and John Hegner play and things. So yeah,
Yeah, we were hoping to put Denny in there at some point. So,
just put me in there sitting. There was nothing. That's just not,
just for people to look at.
We'll get there.
We have, there's a phrase, and before we were saying, well, when we're in phase 5, and then there was the phrase post-vaccine, and now there's the unless it's herd immunity, and then we've got if the transmission rates are declining, and so whenever our current phrase is, because I keep grabbing the latest one, that's when we'll put you in there, Denny.
okay.
Whenever that thing we've
You're gonna
talked
put the sign "New Normal" underneath Denny.
New normal.
we can is when we will, and we'll just survive between now and then.
So thank you guys. Thank you, Janet Kay, Nancy Merkling from the Dole, co-executive directors, 2 powerhouse women in our communities and artists. And we're so glad that you took the time to do this today. We hope
Thank you.
it helps. We will put this up on all of our platforms. We hope that you will put it up on all of yours. We can start to create a collaboration between all of these artists and organizations to start to build some momentum so that we can all move forward together. So I cannot tell you how much we appreciate this, and you have supported what Denny and I are hoping to do with this show. And we will continue to do this and get it out there into the world. So thank you so much. Thedole.org, donate, do company matches, pledge, send money, ask how you can help, do a fundraiser, do a bake sale, sell some lemonade on your porch, social distance. Maybe that's not such a good idea right now. But anyway.
Pre-packaged lemonade only, pre-packaged.
But I just want to thank you on behalf of our brand new podcast, When Will the Curtain Go Up, as being, one of our first to come in and share your story. So thank you both so much.
Thank you. Nice meeting both of you.
Thank you to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of When Will the Curtain Go Up? Creative artists emerging in an ever-changing world. Hosted by Cassandra Vos-Demon and Denny Svela. New episodes air on Thursday evenings on YouTube, Facebook, and your favorite podcasting platform, including iTunes and Google Play, as well as Podbean. Have a great week, and we hope you'll join us again.